Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL. We are hot off the heels of round 2, which saw another weekend of excitement in WAFL football and a few shock results in the grand scheme of the 2024 season. And we're going to break down all the matches for you today, as well as chat to Nik Rokhar, new signing for the Swan District side, and also cast the votes for the Around the WAFL Player of the Year for the second round. Paul Persick with you in the studio. Alongside me is Ethan Roth. Ethan, a couple of those big results in round 2 would have shocked the apple cart per se, but I'll tell you what, it makes for an interesting week of footy ahead.
Lovely to be back with you, Paul. And yeah, if we thought we learnt a thing or two in round 1, it might have doubled in round 2. So looking forward to unpacking it all today.
Absolutely. You can catch us on YouTube, or you can catch us on your respected podcast provider anytime, any place, anywhere throughout the 2024 WAFL season. And here is how you can win big at the WAFL.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Yeah, some big win-wins at stake for 2024. Get yourself down to a game. You do not want to miss any of the action. Let's get to our guest for today, Ethan. Of course, he's one of the new signings from South Australia, coming over from Norwood to play for Swan Districts. And in the first couple of games, he's really adjusted himself quite well. He is Nik Rokhar. He's good enough to join us on Around the WAFL. Nik, how are you, mate?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Going very well. Great to have you here on the show. You've made the transition from the SANFL over to the WAFL. Give us your perspective on what styles, what contrasting styles to the SANFL and the WAFL, if there is.
Yeah, obviously there's probably little differences that I've noticed. It's still very early days, so obviously the grounds over here are probably a little bit bigger on average. The SANFL do have some big grounds over there, like Central Districts and South Adelaide in particular, but on average the grounds are a little bit bigger and probably is a little bit more open play, but as far as the quality of leagues, they're very similar. They're on par, both great competitions. So I'm looking forward to getting a few more games in, and I'm sure I'll pick up a few more differentials between the two, but yeah, they're both great.
And the club's recruited really well, not just with yourself, but Jai Chalcraft also comes over. What have you made of the Swans midfield, gelling with the guys like Jai, but also mainstays such as Jesse Turner? What have you made of gelling with the whole midfield altogether? Yeah,
no, it's been good. I think we're learning different skills and whatnot off each other. We're really keen to get to work and
Oh, it looks like we've just lost him for a moment there. Looks like we've lost Nik Rokhar. Nik, you still there, mate?
You there?
Yeah, we just dropped you for a moment, but you were saying about the Swan District's midfield. How are you gelling with them?
Oh yeah, no, that's all right. I think it's been an okay start. I think we got plenty upside there, and obviously Jake Cassini coming over from Port as well, helped a lot as well. So. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting a few more games in, and I think there's plenty upside there for our midfield.
Now, of course, you had a very good performance against a high-quality East Perth side, the Swans. They were right in it for 3 quarters over there at Sullivan Logistics Stadium on Saturday. You saw a lot of the football. You got 31 possessions, but you and the team, you were high on confidence knowing that you could take it to a finals contender, fellow finals contender in East Perth.
Yeah. No, I think over the summer we've generated a lot of belief with how we've been able to train, and I think the practice matches, they're only practice matches, but they give you a little bit of an indication. So we've taken a lot of confidence out of those games, and we knew East Perth's going to be up there this year, so it's a really good test for us. Probably 10 to 15 minutes throughout the whole game's probably really hurt us, and we're pretty filthy with ourselves with those letdowns, but I think it just goes to show when we are switched on and we're playing the footy we want to play, like we can be right up there in games. So for us, it's just got to be staying in games for longer, and that'll give us a great opportunity.
And you're no stranger to night footy, having played quite a bit of night footy in the Sandful, as you told us off air. What's the preparation like between a day game and a night game in terms of, do you sleep in later? Do you, get up and do things? What's the prep like waiting so long?
Yeah, I sort of wake up whenever I don't have the alarm on, so I'll wake up when my body wants to wake up. It usually means I'll sleep in a little bit more, but the only differences are I just got to wait a little bit longer, and I'll get one more main meal in for the day I think we're at 4:10 this week, so that, and I'll probably try and get a nap in before I leave for the game as well. So just a few things like that, really.
It's pretty good preparation to have for a big day-night game over there at Lathlane as well. It's going to be a big one over on Saturday. So far, so good. The first two games, you've really exceeded expectations so far, and we certainly hope to have some more great performances from you in the WAFL throughout the 2024 season. We really appreciate your time, Nick. All the very best for the big one on Saturday.
No worries. Thank you.
That was Nik Rokhar joining us here on Around the WAFL, talking the massive game that is going to be at Mineral Resources Park on Saturday afternoon. A day-night match under the Lathlane lights, Swan Districts and Perth, and especially with Perth carrying some of those interstate recruiters as well to their team. Add in the Swan Districts interstate recruiters, you've got yourself a star-studded lineup for both sides heading into Saturday. The
stakes are going to be quite high. Obviously, the difference between 1 and 2 and 2 and 1 is quite significant. I know the Swannies have a bye as well, so they'll be wanting to be on the right side of a positive result.
They certainly do. Of course, you can catch that game on the AFL app and on afl.com.au, and you can also catch this.
Get to WAFL Wonderland in Lathlane from 3:30 Saturday. Watch Perth take on Swans. It's WAFL footy with a wonderland of food trucks, giveaways, DJ and kids activities. Tickets at waffle.com.au.
Yes, WAFL Wonderland coming to Mineral Resources Park for the first time in season 2024, and no doubt about it, it is going to be an absolute belter. Let's get to the games, Ethan. It is going to be a sensational review for round 2. Stay with us. We've got a big review coming up now. We're going to start things off with a morning match, West Coast and South Fremantle over at Lathlane. And it was no surprise, Ethan, when you look at the result. South Fremantle winners by 88 points. They were sort of prepared for a tough hit-out given how competitive the Eagles were last week for 3 quarters, but it just didn't happen. South Fremantle, they just ran over the top of the Eagles from pretty much the first bounce.
On a day where the Eagles AFL side showed some competitiveness, the WAFL side couldn't really follow suit, unfortunately. From a South Fremantle point of view, Tom Bletcherton, he just showed why he's the reigning best and fairest winner with 30 touches, the only player to reach 30 on the day. So he was brilliant out of the midfield, setting the tone.
Yeah, Bletcherton, 30 disposals, 8 marks, and also 6 inside 50s to boot. But you also have that great supporting cast in Florenka, the returning Hayden Schloith. Florenka got 26, Schloith got 27. He said last week that, we're possibly going to see the best again from Hayden Schloith after a year over in Katanning and playing country football. He is certainly back to his best at the moment with 9 marks to go with those 27 disposals.
Absolutely, and they're not left by themselves, are they? Matt Parker, really dynamic. We forget how good he is, I think, at times, Matt Parker, with that AFL experience. On his day, I think he's in the best handful of players in the comp. 23 touches, 2 goals. He always hits the scoreboard. The thing with Matt Parker, he's never going to be unreliable when it comes to making an impact when it matters most.
Absolutely. He's one of their big avenues to goal, and he's always reliable. 2 goals, 23 disposals, 7 inside 50s as well. When he gets the ball in that forward 50, he's usually very reliable by foot and by hand as well. So the dynamic abilities that Matthew Parker has got in the centre and further up the ground is going to be a key for South Fremantle.
And I think he's probably just enjoying his footy a bit more now. The pressure's off. He's probably, extremely unlikely to feature at AFL level again. So he's probably just enjoying his time at the Bulldogs where, his whole journey started, and sort of nurturing those young players that come through.
Absolutely. Of course, for South Fremantle, a big win over the West Coast Eagles, who again, that they struggle with continuity. Continuity is their major issue. They had Jay Cullig return from a knee injury. He struggled a little bit, but it never is easy to come back to your best with a knee injury. Cohen Livingston, 11 hit-outs, played a bit in the ruck, 14 disposals. At the moment, after 2 rounds, Cohen Livingston coming over from a successful Colts side at Perth last year. He's going to face a really tough transition, but he's got what it takes to be at the top level.
He does, and I think the thing with Cohen is he's been predominantly more of a forward ruck in the past, playing more forward than stints in the ruck. But, credit to him, he's really, the main ruckman now at WAFL level for the Eagles and, alongside Harry Barnett when he's playing. So it's a big step up to be more of a full-time ruckman rather than a pinch hitter.
I think Cohen Livingston needs to be suited more up forward. I mean, this is the problem that Greg Clark had before he made his comeback to Subiaco. He was not playing as an inside midfielder. That's his prime role. And for Cohen Livingston, he's been sucked into that that possibility of not playing in his preferred position. That's again the problem with the Eagles. They're not getting that continuity. They're not utilising a lot of their players in the right position. Livingston, to be honest with you, he should be playing more as a ruck forward.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just a lack of numbers and that sort of thing. And unfortunately, I think people look to see like the Eagles WAFL players, as a team of opportunity for players coming back from injury, like your Dom Sheeds, but they're still a WAFL side. You still want to see wins on the board
and
or
Andrew
competitive
Gaff as well.
performances.
Add in Andrew Gaff to that equation.
You don't just want to see guys coming back for AFL because the rest there's guys who aren't on an AFL list who want to play competitive footy. So they got to get that balance right between focusing on making sure these guys aren't re-injuring themselves, but also taking it up to teams, because otherwise teams are just going to get belt Eagles every week, as we've seen in the last 2 years.
Absolutely. And with South Fremantle's big win, that gets them ready for the Tigers. They've got themselves a big hit out against the Tigers, which we'll preview on Friday's edition of Around the WAFL. Of course, episodes this week, Wednesday and Friday. But for South Fremantle, they are high on confidence following that big win. Can they get it done again against the Tigers?
Yeah, we'll cover that on Friday, as you said. I'm fascinated by that clash, honestly, because Claremont are going to be, fired up, you'd think. But South Free at home, they need to turn that into a bit more of a fortress. So have to wait to my prediction on Friday for that. But I think they're in with a sniff.
That's going to be a beauty of a game on Saturday at Fremantle Oval. But the Dogs getting it done by 88 points. All right, second game. You spoke about Claremont just now. We're going to go to them, of course, East Fremantle. They went to Revo Fitness Stadium, got the points, but we didn't expect how emphatic they would get the points. 90 points the margin, 21-9 to 6-9. I did the call for this game, and my jaw literally was wide open throughout that finish. I mean, East Fremantle, while they were dominant in every facet of the game. They had more inside 50s. They had almost double the amount of kicks to Claremont. They had more disposals, 93 of them, and won by 90 points. I cannot fathom how ordinary Claremont were on Saturday. I'd never seen a more ordinary Claremont performance than what they dished out on Saturday.
So I think it's fair to say this speaks more about Claremont's poorness rather than East Fremantle's brilliance, although we do want to give credit to the Sharks. I don't think anyone saw this coming, even East Freo fans, especially at the Tigers' home ground. As you said, Sharks came out all guns blazing. John O'Marsh used his experience to ignite them with 5 goals inside the first half. He's just so passionate every time. Love his celebrations. Obviously gave a few to the crowd, but it seems like, to me, watching the game, there was a lot of goals out the back for East Fremantle. Is that a concern for the Tigers' defence, just running into open goals in the goal square?
Well, a lot of their goals were set up across half-back, especially when you look at the likes of Lennon Marlin and Milan Murdoch mopping up those Claremont turnovers, because we saw a lot of them out in their half-forward line, but when East Fremantle were able to gather the ball off half-back, the run and carry through the likes of Murdoch, Baskerville as well, he had a great game to go with his 29 disposals, 10 marks, but also Lennon Marlin, who I thought was one of the more better for East Fremantle. That was one of his more better games. You look at it, 24 disposals and 6 marks. Look at those numbers. They aren't the level of a Milan Murdoch or a Luke English, but just his efficiency and deliverance from halfback into that attacking zone was absolutely impressive. Claremont really didn't count on him enough.
It's the impact, isn't it? And Marlin, it's amazing. He's in a successful side, no disrespect to the West Coast Eagles, but he obviously played a little bit of league footy there, and he's got guys around him, such as Luke English, who was a handy inclusion to come back in with 31 touches. But
and Tom Joyce as well, who had 22.
Yep, they just bat so deep in that midfield and across half back. But courtesy of WAFL Footy Facts, first time since 2018 that Claremont has been 9th after a round, and also the biggest loss they've had in the game since 2008, which I guess does highlight how successful they have been in the last decade and a half. But shout out to Rick for those facts.
Rick Gauchi from WAFL Footy Facts. Those are some ripping facts, make no mistake about that. There were some positives for Claremont. There's always got to be in a demoralising loss like that. Lachlan Martinez played a bit down back, also a good solid midfielder, 30 disposals, 7 marks, and 5 inside 50s as well. He virtually played a lone hand in the centre when the likes of Rogers, Bolton, England, and Main Waring to an extent were down. About 80% of that team were down on the form from the previous week and or last year's finals campaign. So it was a loss they want to put behind them very quickly. The Claremont fans expect them to respond. I certainly expect them to respond against South Fremantle on Saturday.
And being there at the ground, what was it like? What was the mood there? Like when Claremont players were walking off, obviously heavily disappointed, but you just don't see that from a Claremont outfit. What was the mood, especially at the Tigers' home with the crowd?
They were shocked. They were shocked. It was almost like a stunned silence from the Tigers fans. But there were a few Sharks fans in there, absolutely joyous with a big win like that. And keep in mind, that's 5 of the last 6 that East Fremantle have won over Claremont. And that's only like their third loss, Claremont, at their home ground to East Fremantle since 1996, believe it or not. Between these two sides at Revo Fitness Stadium or Claremont Oval, as it's formerly known. But East Fremantle dominant in every facet of the game. Bryn Teakle to add to that in the ruck against Oliver Eastland. That was a great battle. I'd have to say it was an even battle. Eastland just won it out. His follow-up work was very good, but didn't get a lot of backup.
Yeah, that's true. You need your support around you, and Teakle will be better for that moving forward. There's no tougher task in the ruck than Ollie Eastland, let's face it.
Absolutely, but Teakle, he was brilliant as well. 15 disposals and 9 marks. East Fremantle responding in a big way. They're back on even terms, winners by 90 points. Now, this was a really good contest, the one at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, East Perth Swan Districts. The Swans, they were only down by 4 points at the start of the third term, but they only kicked 6 straight behinds in the third quarter. East Perth pulled away. Their high-caliber midfield coming to the forefront again and getting the job done. Winners by 7 goals over there at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. And no, Brayshaw, what more can you say? Brayshaw back to his best form, 32 touches and 8 marks. That high-caliber midfield coming to the forefront once again.
You just knew East Perth would gleefully welcome him back, wouldn't you? But the scoreboard didn't really truly reflect how the game was. As you said, they were right in it, the Swans, for the majority of the game. Maybe just ran out of legs a bit in the last quarter, so that'll be a focus for them, that 4-quarter effort. 2 players that I really want to highlight in this one from either team. Tom Medhat, 6 goals. Showed glimpses last year, I think, but he's really elevated his game. So hopefully that's a platform for more success for Tom.
Because that was a big area of concern one of the 2 areas of concern that cost East Perth a chance to go deeper in the final series. One of course was a key ruckman. They've got that now with Scott Jones returning, and to add to your point, they just needed that key forward that can deliver you big bags of goals. Tom Medhat, he's a good, solid player, but he's suited more up forward as your main goal kicker, your main avenue to goal. And he got that 6 straight from only 10 possessions, but he took 5 terrific marks inside that forward half.
Yeah, that mid-range forward, obviously Schofield as well, so they complement each other well. And another player from Swans I wanted to shout out was Will Reedy. He's become a real live wire, burning 3 on the weekend. Offers a point of difference, I think, in that forward half, and some serious wheels on him when he gets going.
Oh, when he gets that accelerator going, he is hard to chase down no matter who the opposition is. Now, Reedy was sensational, 4 marks as well. Tom Edwards, of course, 10 marks in that forward half in his second game back from an injury late last season. He's starting to, get the wheels back in motion, Tommy Edwards. I reckon he, Reedy, and also Aidan Cartwright to an extent could become a good forward tandem if they can get that continuity going against high-quality opposition.
And you can't expect Tom Edwards to obviously come out all guns blazing after an injury like he had, but, as he builds more each week, it's only going to come. We saw his form last year was just the breakout forward, I think, of the WAFL when you think about it. But his teammates, Jesse Turner, whopping 43 touches, just doing Jesse Turner things week on week.
If he doesn't get a Sandover medal vote for that game, I'm going to honestly be stunned. I mean, the numbers, they don't often tell a story, but this one does. Jesse Turner, absolute ball magnet, one of the best midfielders in the competition, and he reeled in 18 marks as well. An absolutely brilliant performance in a losing team.
18 marks. You don't see key position players take that amount of marks, let alone a midfielder.
We're going back to the likes of Anthony Koutafidis in the AFL.
Yeah, absolutely. Exceptional he was, as was Jai Chalcroft and our guest Nik Rokhar. Lee Coleman, who got our votes in round 1, was a bit quieter, but still contributed with 2 goals.
Yeah, 2 goals. Not obviously not to the maximum extent that he would have wanted, of course, with the 6 he kicked against the West Coast Eagles. But I reckon another thing that really helped East Perth in that last quarter was the back line. I mean, you talk about the likes of Kai Wilcox, Zach Hill, and a couple of his other backmen as well. The back 6 is going to play such a huge role for East Perth, especially, when you still got Dittmar not out there for the side at the moment. Dittmar was a major piece of that Royals back 6. He's not there, but you got Kai Wilcox still in there. there, very reliable down back for the Royals.
Absolutely, and it's just a class, I think, above for this game, especially in that last quarter. They made an early statement, and that developing midfield Swans, I think, will learn a thing or two.
Absolutely. Class told for East Perth, winners by 7 goals over at Sullivan Logistics Stadium over the Swans. Okay, the fourth game, Pentanet Stadium in Joondalup, day-night match. West Perth getting it done over Perth by some 8 goals, set up by a 7-1 first quarter. The Falcons, they just never look back. They are looking the goods early on at 2 wins from 2 starts.
Absolutely, and as someone who predicted them to miss the 5, to be honest, after just being unsure how the gap between their veterans and youth would be, I couldn't be more impressed, to be honest. They just look so potent up forward. In years gone past, it's been Tyler Keitel, but you see Jasper Scaife bobbing up with 4 goals. You see a mid-sized forward like Sasha Kerner bobbing up.
Is their forward line going to become a lot stronger this year compared to last year? Because there was that huge reliance on Tyler Keitel to deliver those big bags of goals. Now you're seeing more players come to the party, so to speak. Even if Keegan Knott is not delivering in support for Keitel, you've got Kerner, you've got Scaife. Jasper Scaife, only his second league game, kicks 4, impressive.
Expecting big things from Jasper Scaife. I believe he could potentially go to another level in terms of the AFL. Obviously missed out a couple of drafts ago, but because Keitel here is going to get the main attention from the key defender from the opposition, so that not necessarily frees up your Scaifes because they're still going to get good defenders, but there's not that reliance, as you said, on Keitel, and he's still kicked 3, so that's saying something in itself.
West Perth look a lot more aggressive this year. They look a lot more ferocious than they were last year. Last year they struggled to get any continuity. They had some injuries, but now with a lot of their key players coming back, they're fit and firing, and the continuity is there. Yes, okay, they've played one tough opponent and an easy opponent, but that's what you want at the start of the season. To maintain that aggression throughout the season, no matter who your opponent is. And of course, they got a big one against Subiaco coming up on Saturday at Leederville in round 3. That was a really good tune-up for them.
It was good preparation for a side like Subiaco. In terms of this game, second game under lights for both these sides back-to-back. So not indicating this is the case by any stretch of the imagination, but let's just hope Perth didn't get carried away from their big round 1 win, that triumph, because it seemed to be the same suspects doing it again. Your Constables, your Cornelios, your Coolies, your Aaron Clarks up forward. I'm just interested to know if the young guys maybe got carried away a little bit. Not saying that's the case.
It could be the case, maybe not. But it's always difficult for a side like this to go to West Perth against West Perth in Joondalup and beat them on their home turf under lights. 3 teams managed to do that midway through the season. The Falcons were depleted afterwards. Perth never is easy. They haven't had a good record against West Perth. So I don't think it was the case that the youngsters got carried away. I just think they were overwhelmed by the quality of the opposition and also the magnitude of playing a second day-night game under lights. They're going to have to do so again at home against Swan District, so they're really going to have to get their act in order after, a big loss like that. It was disappointing, to think about it. They'd gone from, a great win over Subiaco, restored the belief. And then all of a sudden they come crashing back down in the form of a big loss like that under lights to West Perth. But you look at your Charlie Constables, 30 possessions for him. Again, outstanding. Jacob Caniglio playing a bit of midfield and a little bit down in defence. 25 disposals. And Josh Edwards, I reckon he could be a revelation in the ruck. The only thing that he needs improvement on is his follow-up work. He only had the 5 touches in addition to his 28 hitouts.
Yeah, watched him in round 1. He took some good marks, but that's a good point. He needs to probably move around the ground a bit more and impact. I'm not saying he needs to become a 5th midfielder or anything like that. Not expecting him to, be a breakout player when it comes to the midfield. But yeah, just support his teammates a little bit more. And it was just, I guess they couldn't stop Nelson as well. He's such a hot start to the year.
He ran rampant, 35 disposals, 8 marks, 2 inside 50s. But again, just his run and carry through the corridor, again, was a massive part of West Perth's big win. If they don't get that run through the corridor from Shane Nelson, where's that supply towards forward 50 going to come to? Where is that going to come from?
Another breakout. Yeah, it's a good point. He's just been such a warrior of the WAFL competition. Can't really praise him enough. And those Perth players, I'm not going to say it's acceptable to be, winning a really good win and then a loss like that week after week. But we've got to remember that they are young. There's going to be a little bit of inconsistency naturally. So, I think they'll be better for it. But,
and we're still pretty early in the season. We're only 2 rounds in. Some 19 rounds still remain right now. There's a lot of room of improvement for Perth. And, they still should be confident about a win against Swan Districts. Swan Districts have had their own problems as well in the first couple of rounds. They're 1-1, Perth's 1-1. And as you said, there is a contrasting difference, a very vast difference, I should say, to being 2-1 and 1-2 as well. And we'll find that out on Saturday. West Perth, big winners over Perth at Pentanet Stadium. Okay, let's go to the final game. Of course, it took place on Sunday afternoon. Subiaco and Peel Thunder. Subiaco, good start, 4-1 in the opening term. Peel made a bit of a comeback late in the third term and again at the start of the fourth. But the Lions, they just looked a lot more the settled side, more disciplined as well. Peel Thunder just had a few moments of ill discipline, and that's one of the things that cost them.
You just knew there was probably a good chance Subi were not going to slip to 0-2 by their standards. I went to this game. It just felt like every time Peel came within closing distance, Subiaco just held them off, and in a little bit of a seesawing affair. They got close. Subiaco, just with their professionalism, weren't letting them get right back into it. And even though the likes of Liam Reedy dominated in the ruck, giving the likes of Brodie, Hancock and Brady Gray first youth with a whopping 49 hit-outs, I should say.
Huge for Liam Reedy. He was the spark for Peel Thunder in that second half when the game looked like it was going to be slipping away from the Thunder, slipping from their grasp. Liam Reedy got them back in reach. Only had the 9 touches, but his 49 hit-outs proved crucial, especially when you're playing that supporting role for Brady Gray and Will Brodie, providing them with the gateway to the centre clearances, and Reedy did absolutely brilliantly.
Absolutely, and Nathan Wilson, he did struggle a bit, after a 5-goal outing, only 6 touches, did kick a goal, but I was watching his body language and he seemed frustrated out there, whether that was lack of supply or just his, not lack of supply, I guess, efficiency inside 50 or his own performance. I reckon Subi made a conscious effort during the week to nullify his influence, and it paid off, but I guess we can't be too harsh on Wilson. It is only his second week playing permanent forward, and he might be a bit up and down week to week.
Yeah, he may be a bit up and down early on in form. That's sort of expected, but with the game coming up against East Perth, he's going to face another tough test in the form of another strong backline in East Perth. So there's going to need to be a way for Adam Reid, the Peel coach, to find a way to get Wilson free from the shackles of another tough backline and get him free as that main avenue to goal.
I know he can be really dangerous one out, but I would like to see him move up the ground a bit more, because when he's getting it bombed in, he's not a key forward. I know he can run and jump at the ball really well, but you'd like to see him move up the ground a bit more and be a bit of like a link in a chain, and not just base his performance purely off goals scored.
And where that forward supply could come in, you have the likes of Tregenza and Sears providing avenues to goal. They got 2 each, Tregenza and Sears. Sears with the 14 disposals, Tregenza with 8. But again, Subiaco, they look the more settled lineup. You talk about Greg Clark as we go to them. The Lions captain led from the front again, 32 touches, 7 marks and 6 tackles. He, again, was, a real necessity for the Lions. When the chips were down, Greg Clark first the ball, showed his desperation in midfield, and the plaudits he deserves.
Pivotal, yeah. I don't see many people work as hard as Greg Clark in the midfield. Like, he gets a lot of touches, but it's his follow-up work. He's getting a lot of 1-2s, runs both ways defensively and offensively, and I know they didn't win in round 1, but if clubs do want to beat Subiaco, they need to restrict him, because although his disposal wasn't at his absolute best, missing a couple of targets inside 50, he just racks it up.
They also need to restrict as well Jack Mayo and Ben Sokol. 6 goals between them. Could they be a new potent forward tandem in 2024?
I think they offer something different as well. Mayo, works up the ground a bit more, that big booming left foot, and Sokol's just that strong player who can draw key defenders back to the goal square. So if one doesn't bob up, the other will get you.
Yes. And the Lions certainly got Peel Thunder on this occasion on the Sunday afternoon. They were big winners by 26 points over Peel Thunder at Sullivan Logistics Stadium on Sunday. Now, before we get to the votes, Ethan, a couple of fascinating facts. You mentioned a couple of those earlier on in the show. Of course, Clermont's 90-point loss, Clermont being 9th on the ladder for the first time since 2018. After round 2, Clermont had the most free kicks with 35 and also conceded the most with 38. But also, 2024 is the first time since 1991 that East Perth have held top spot on the ladder for the first 2 rounds this season. West Perth, following their win against Perth, have won 8 games in a row, going to their 6th consecutive on the back end of the 2023 season. 3 wins short of their record 11-game winning streak, going back to 1968. So we're going way back. And Subiaco's win over Peel Thunder on Sunday ended their equal club record 3-game losing streak against the Thunder. That's all thanks to Rick Gauchi from WAFL Footy Facts. And tell you what, some fascinating ones to emerge from the second round.
That's pretty good, that Subiaco one. Only 3-game losing streak. I know Peel Thunder are the newest club in the competition, but that shows its success, albeit a couple of losing grand finals in there.
This is Around the Waffle, your go-to podcast for the WAFL in 2024. All right, you know what time it is? It's our favourite time of the show. And for the fans, it's their favourite time of the show. The casting of the Player of the Year votes for Round 2, 2024. Let's start it off with the first vote right off the bat. Noah Strom from South Fremantle, 5 goals for him in that win over the West Coast Eagles. The way he was able to get free from the defence quite easily and provide a lot of scoreboard pressure for the South Fremantle side. He was incredible. And speaking of incredible up forward, Tom Medhat. He gets the 2 votes.
Some would say stiff, but that's just a reflection of the rest of the votes.
Absolutely. Of course, Tommy Medhat, 6 goals in a sensational display up forward. He was magnificent against the Swan District's backline. 3 votes from West Perth, Shane Nelson. Masterful performance in midfield. His run and carry through the corridor was absolutely magnificent and provided that vital forward supply for the likes of Kyatel, Scaife, and also Sasha Kernett, who were also in amongst the goals as well. 4 votes. Greg Clark, the Subiaco captain. He led from the front. He was absolutely outstanding all afternoon, especially when the chips were down and Subi had their backs to the wall against Peel Thunder in the stages of the third quarter and in the last. But the 5 votes for this week, the Around the Waffle top gun for Round 2 2024 from East Fremantle, Big John O'Marsh. 7 goals. You can't go past him. He was unbelievable. 5 goals in the first half and 2 rippers in the last quarter. The game may have been out of reach, but when you nail a drop punt from the forward pocket, the right forward pocket, very difficult to do, and then you go from a similar angle, but from outside the 50, what more can you say?
Yep, I love the traditional drop punt, no matter what area of the ground you're on. So, no stranger to votes, really, all these guys.
Now, absolutely incredible. They were racking up the votes left, right and centre. A magnificent performance by all those 5 vote getters. And as we mentioned last week, we'll reveal our first leaderboard in Round 5 when the votes really start to come in for the players in 2024. And speaking of big wins, not just the votes, here's how you can win big at the Waffle.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the Waffle. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Yes, a lot of big wins in the WAFL for 2024. That just about does it for today's edition. Don't forget, we have our round preview on Friday this week, of course. Round 3, looking ahead to that. Ethan, a big round of football. Looking forward to dishing it all out with you on Friday.
It is, yep. Bring on Friday.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to your company on Friday on your podcast provider and, of course, on YouTube this week. Don't forget, of course, you can check out our social content as well on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you on Friday when we look ahead to round 3.